Hello and welcome everyone to Ask an Event Pro. This is your host, Francisco, product evangelist at Events.com. Today with us we've got Rick Nealis, race director of the Marine Corps Marathon, and we're going to be discussing with him today's topic, which is race day safety, how to do it right. Rick, welcome. Good morning.
Hoorah! Thank you.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you for making the time, Rick. Like I said, this is the show where we're going to bring you, the event pros, closer to the people that are running these events that you put on, and we're really excited to learn more about you and how you manage safety for the races that you work with. So how about we get started?
Outstanding. Let's jump right in.
All right, awesome. Rick, so I got a quick question for you. What are 5 essentials you keep on your bag on race day?
Well, that's a good question. It has evolved over the years. I've been race director 23 years for the Marine Corps Marathon, and in those early years, you would hear about the wire cutters and the plastic zip ties to hold things together, and flashlight, because we're out there super dark in the morning. But where we are today and where we have evolved, probably the first thing in my bag, come race morning, is calmness. There's been a lot of hard work planning into the what we call the execution phase. And Marines, sailors, people in the event business know there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts that are happening. Again, 26.2 miles, a lot of things out on the course that you don't have direct eye contact. But where you are, you've got to be able to promote calmness, and give that reassurance to your people that the plan is working, because we know certain things happen, the timelines start to slip a little bit, and so one is just people are looking for leadership, and the leadership is calm. It puts them back at ease that if the boss is not upset, then things must be going right. So I would say that is important. Second is probably a 360 view, and again I'll go back to there's been 6 months, 8 months. Some of the hotel business, we're 5 years, 10 years down the road doing hotel contracts. So depending on what aspect of the event that you're working on, and we're focusing on race day, having a 360, the total awareness where I am and what's happening in all the surroundings. There's press conference going on, there's entertainment, there's music, there's the chaplains coming, you've got VIPs, you've got people, especially at Marine Corps, senators, congressmen, people that have security details with them that we don't advertise, and they're coming in through different gates and screening processes. So there's a lot going on, and it's just the awareness of again, of somebody in charge. Even though I'm the race director, we all work for somebody, and in my case, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, this is his single day community relations event. It's really to showcase the Marines' organization skills. It's for giving us a chance to give something back to the community, and really just showcase physical fitness. So 360 awareness is probably the second thing in my bag of tricks that I'm looking at. If you get down to a real solid item, it's cell phone. The days of the walkie-talkies and Marine Corps used to have Prick 77s, and we have repeaters, and we have our military communications equipment. We still have those kind of things, but as a race director, it's the cell phone, it's the text. The text is what's coming. There's a lot of noise. The text is what's somebody's reaching out to you, and with that is again, confidence in people able to execute. You're not a race director is not really in the business of micromanaging. You got to have faith in your people that everybody is executing the plan. And one of the hallmarks of being around Marines and being a Marine is that when something does happen, and your boss is not there, or in combat, unfortunate, somebody gets killed, the next person knows the plan. You know who's on your right, who's on your left, what's happening on your flank, what's happening in your rear, who can you go to for help. And so again, that's 360 total surrounding. So cell phone is important, because when that rings, I normally not good news that somebody is calling you, that needs your attention. And what we call a red cell, and that's about 8 people that are on this communication link. It is the base commander for Marine Corps Base, National Capital Region. He's on that line, and head law enforcement, the person who's in unified command. Ever since 9/11, and even people look at what happened at Boston, is that the law enforcement and your command operations center are two distinct places, two distinct operations, because at one time everybody was together and it was comfortable, and because you just never could conceptualize that something would happen. But now basically you've taken all your eggs out of one basket and kind of splitting them up in two. So cell phone is one. Another important aspect, I think, at race morning is, you've done the training. It's pretty much, you've told the runners, what you want them to do. They're going through the motions. They're, going through their drills. Really, at that point, for a race director, is the media, because operationally, the fencing's up, the bicycle racks are up, the signage is up, the arch is up, things are going according to plan. But it's the media now. Now it's an opportunity, to really get the message out to a larger audience about exactly what's happening, at that moment. That people should come out and cheer the runners on. As you well know, it's a participatory sport. That's the beauty of running, is that the runners get to do exactly what our sport tells us to do, which is to run. You get to run 26.2 miles, and you bring family members, and you have, running in Washington, D.C. is absolutely just an incredible opportunity to see, what we used to call the Indian summer of fall. The monuments, the statues, the White House, Lincoln Memorial. Marine Corps Marathon is not fast, and by saying not fast, it's more important for us to have a course that's focused on the beauty of DC and showing the statues and monuments, where maybe somebody else is more focused on speed and time and maybe Olympic trials. So did I hit 5 in my bag of tricks?
Absolutely, I think so. It looks like more your bag is more in your head. You got to make sure that everything is in line in your head first. The planning, the calmness. The cell phone is there, obviously the gadget, but obviously how you use the cell phone. I really like it. It's been a different.
It's communications. I think that's it. It's communications and if you've done your homework, if you put the time and energy up front, then when race day comes, it's really about shaking hands, gripping and grinning. Everybody wants to take a photo. So if the race director's standing on the start line taking photos, again, it kind of puts your staff and your personnel at ease that things must be going right if he's able to take photos, because he's not worried about this, or this. Proper training. It's probably one of the hallmarks of the Marine Corps. Again, you go back and everybody knows that what we used to call BAMSIS. Begin planning, arrange recon, make a recon, supervise, execute the plan. All those troop leading steps. When you have 2,500 Marines out there who are all come from that same mindset. We have volunteers and civilians also, but those Marines all are thinking along those lines. When you look at our operations plan, we write in the 5-paragraph order. We know, you're going to get the situation, you're going to get the mission, you're going to get the execution, you're going to get command and control, you're going to get logistics and administration. That's how we think. Think in that order of those 5 things, and things just happen at a much quicker pace. And as you know, in the event business, a minute is a long time, especially when you're on the finish line and people are coming across that finish line in 1 minute at the bell curve of around 445, 450. We're looking at 300, 400 people a minute coming across. So there's not a whole lot of time to not fix a problem, because we're talking large numbers of people.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that it all comes down to proper planning so that you can instill this sense of calmness on event day. So I want to take our audience back a step to when you do start this planning, Rick, and I want you to tell us, how does your safety concerns differ between organizing, say, a 5K and a marathon?
I would tell you that your security concerns, whether it's a 5K or a marathon, should not be any different. And then it's kind of surprising. You say, well, a 30,000 people race compared to a 1,500 people race. And what I mean by that, it really comes down to, in simple terms, risk assessment. Every function, every operation that you do, you should be doing a risk assessment. If you're taking baggage into a baggage truck, and you should go through the process. Do I take backpacks? Do I take somebody's suitcase who's checked out of? And some races still do, even in this day and age of security concerns, that they hopefully think about it and then say, well, the threat of something happening is minimal, and we'll take those items. For us, being Marine Corps Marathon, being in Washington, D.C., we think about that step and say, risk is high, and we want to see everything in a clear plastic bag. So every aspect of your event should go through a risk assessment. And of course, you're not going to be able to do everything, because with risk assessments, as you go through the process, you're thinking of money, material, labor. Do you have the personnel? Probably never have as much money as we want to be able to do certain things. So now you start to make decisions based on your assets and your strengths and weaknesses. And we look at seams in the security aspect. What is the most probable course of action? In this case, for the enemy, whoever that enemy might be. It could be, the enemy could be as simple as weather, from a safety security aspect. So, part of it's ingrained in the military. So even when 9/11 happened in 2001, and we were the first event that could go bring back life into Washington, D.C., the Pentagon was still a crime scene days before we executed that race. And there were some things that we had in place that others did not have. We had military assets. I could do chemical readings. I had a lot more maybe explosive ordnance EOD teams to be able to look at things and check things. And then when we have evolved over the 15 years, our nation's been at war. We have the DC sniper. There's almost every year there's some safety security issue that we have to deal with in Washington, D.C. And what probably really makes us more different than others is that the ability to work with people. In my case, I have 7 primary law enforcement agencies. So if you sit and think about maybe New York or Boston, Chicago, pretty much the police chief of those cities is providing the police force, and there's probably one person, really in charge and power. In my case, I don't have that luxury. I got Arlington County, Virginia State Police, Capitol Police, Pentagon Police, Metropolitan DC, Metro Transit, and you have to bring all those people together because we're using pieces of the road that are on those jurisdictions who owns that property. And then again, from what we know after 9/11, there's got to be one law enforcement, just like we have one general, one commandant that's in charge making those decisions. And then between the law enforcement, they choose who that unified command is, which is Arlington County.
Got it. Absolutely. So, Rick, now I suspect that another big part of the planning process is the design of the course. So what are some, how do you design a safe course? What are some advice that you can give the audience?
Well, it's working with the partners. As a runner, you might want to run on a flat road. And if I was a runner, I would design a course that maybe would run along the George Washington Parkway. Lots of trees, running along the Potomac River. But that's not going to happen because the George Washington Parkway is a direct access to the national airport, and we have to be able to keep that road and the airport open on race day. So then you start, almost like a give and take. What does the local jurisdictions, those 7 law enforcement agencies, willing to give? What will they shut down for you? And then you work with them, and sometimes they give you 1 lane where you would like to have 3 lanes because we've got 30,000 people, and you have to work with them and say, if we bunch everybody together, we're maybe making a safety concern, and then and they weigh it out. And so one is really just having a good relationship with the law enforcement. Another one, I guess, is like the National Park Service. We work with 3 different superintendents that own property in the national park. One is the mall, very easy to work with. One is Rock Creek Parkway. Obviously, there's, again, concerns about getting people into work. And, I mean, there's a lot of other things happening in Washington, D.C. besides the Marine Corps Marathon on that last Sunday in October. And then where the Iwo Jima Memorial belongs to the National Park on the Virginia side. So you have 3 different superintendents with 3 different needs. And it's just, I think it's building those relationships to get what is safe, what is people willing to give, and then are you able to work with it? And and a good case is if you ran Marine Corps. I ran my first one in 1981, PR in 1983. We used to run around the Pentagon 4 or 5 miles running in a circle. Today, the Pentagon, after 9/11, the South Pentagon portion of the Pentagon is pretty much off limits and restricted space. So we've had to make changes, and at the end of the day, it's still 26.2 miles, and so from a runner standpoint, the distance is there. Whether we go down this street or we go down the other street, but what we try to do is try to make it as each time they put another memorial on the mall or somewhere in the vicinity of our race, we actually sit back and say, can we make our runners run by this new memorial? In another year, the new African American Museum will be open on the Independence, and that will probably be a highlight for us, adding another monument to our course.
Awesome. Now, Rick, we've discussed planning, proper planning, working with your partners. Now I would like to take the audience closer to race day. So I would like to ask you, what does your timeline for safety planning look like leading up to the Marine Corps Marathon? As you get closer, what does that timeline look like?
As a non-appropriated organization inside the Marine Corps. We operate year-round. We're already planning on next year in 2016, October 30th. Registration is only about a month away. Charity summit. So there's all these things for 2016 that are either probably more in an 18-month planning cycle because it takes a little bit longer. And in my case, I have to use government contracting. I use government lawyers to review my agreements and sponsorship agreements and permits. So there's a little bit of longer timeline in that process. But more importantly, about 5 months out, we get what we call our special project officers. And these are Marines that are maybe the helicopter pilots to the people who do motor transportation needs and the buses, our engineers, our medical. We get a medical doctor who does medical doctor issues, basically the triage. You get medical Navy personnel, kind of the nurses who work those aid stations and make those assessments, and then medical logistics. Then you got the law enforcement piece. So there's about 110 people, if you can imagine, starting in May, every Thursday in this planning cycle. Now, when we're sitting in May, and it's important to me and it's exciting to me about the 41st Marine Corps Marathon, I can probably tell you that Metropolitan Police Department or our other law enforcement agencies are probably not too focused on October 30th in May. They are putting on 4th of July's. They have, every day there's something happening on our nation's mall. So their focus, those special operations, law enforcement, are really a little bit short-sighted. They're focused on now, the moment. And so when you're trying to get them excited about something 5 months from now, so that timeline gets a little bit closer to event day. But when it actually gets to, kickoff time, everybody's a professional. These are, individuals that do safety quite a lot. We're talking about, again, those agencies that I mentioned. I mean, our National Park Police, every day there's something, those involved with Metropolitan, the Pentagon, Capitol Police. So these are real professionals. They have assets, because I'm dealing with federal, district, state, county, law enforcement that have different assets that I'm able to utilize on race day, as well as what the Marine Corps brings from a safety, security piece. I mean, we've been at war for 12 years against the war on terrorism, and these are combat veterans, a lot of them that are working our aid stations and working our start line and finish line procedures. These are people that have gone through training that when they're in Iraq or Afghanistan, that know what to be looking for when you're looking into crowds, and to be able to provide a much more eyes-on, see something, say something, mentality. And so that's all blended into our safety plan. That really, is paramount. Is that what is center gravity? And by that is each moment of the day. Center gravity for me is where is the largest group of people. What is the largest group of possibility that would be the largest target for somebody, and making sure that center gravity is always safe and always secure.
Absolutely. Now, Rick, I'm sure that you've had your fair share of experience that no matter how much planning you do and how prepared you are, there's always that unplanned situation that happens, right? That maybe it's a mistake or maybe just something that's just out of everyone's hands. But that said, I would love to get your opinion on what's the biggest mistake that can happen on race day, or that someone can make on race day.
That's a very relevant and current subject. If I look at 23 years, I would probably tell you that this year is probably the one that I'm doing some soul searching, and I mean that from the fact that 5 o'clock is when we open up the metro system to be able to move runners to get them where we want runners to be, and normally that is in the North Pentagon parking lot. That's our runners, runners village. That's where they go through screening points, and for the most part, some come through buses, some walk in, but the majority are coming off of our metro system. And we do a lot of security planning with our law enforcement about 45, 60 days out, what we call rock drills. And we do scenarios, and nothing, every event that's putting on an event today in 2015 and going into 2016, when I talk about risk assessment, one of those things is drones. If you're not talking about it and thinking about it, and how it affects your start line, what do you do if you see one? Who's got the authority of airspace? I mean, the days that race directors just handed out bananas and water has changed. It's all about runner safety, and so we do these rock drills. But this year, I mean, right up, we pay about $80,000 to open up the metro system, which is about 6, 7 different colors: blue, orange, red, green, yellow. So if you can imagine at 5 o'clock, the blue line, which is the most important line, going to delivering the runners to our runners village. At 5 o'clock, it leaves Springfield, which is Franconia, which is the first stop. At 5:02, 2 minutes, it pulls into Van Dorn, very next stop. At 5:03, it pulls out, and all of a sudden, we're not notified right away, but at 5:04, it hits something. So protocol is that when a train, a metro, hits something, it shuts down and has to be investigated to make sure it's not a person. That procedure of somebody getting out on the tracks in the dark at 5:03 to see what is it human? In this case, it was a deer, but it took about 20, 25 minutes. Kind of out of the event planner's control, because Rick Nealis cannot walk out on the track with a flashlight and say it's a deer, start moving. Somebody else from the Metro Transit has to do that. So if you can imagine that all the other colors are working on race day, dropping runners off who are coming from the red, the yellow, the green, the orange, but they're getting dropped off at a hub that is connected to the blue train, and the blue train's not running. And there's more of our runners coming, and more are coming. So in that 25, 30 minutes of race morning, at 5:04, 4 minutes into game day, we are in a very, thousands of runners are being basically bottled up, waiting for the train to start. So that put us behind about 30 minutes, 35 minutes on race day. Like I said, there were still some coming in from different people who park at our parking lot. We bust them in. Those people are coming in. But a large majority of our runners on race morning this year had a little bit of frustration because, one, it wasn't known exactly what happened on the blue line. You always get rumors. People all start to speculate. So there's false, of course, it's always worse. Somebody is saying, well, the Marines are never late, so it must be something really horrible, really bad. And, and in fact, at the end of the day, we're very fortunate it was a deer. The second thing I probably would tell you, so that threw me off a little bit and gave me a little bit of maybe a gray hair or two, because I was trying to figure out exactly, again, what was happening. I knew something. I just didn't see the runners. For 23 years, I've seen thousands of runners at 5 o'clock because we do a prayer service, and people come early to be with the chaplain and to be in the Pentagon, and just did not see those numbers this year. So I knew there was something happening, and it even took a while for me to figure it out. The second thing was weather. Weather in any military operation is always the unknown. We joke about it's the job of the chaplain. We use Navy chaplains, and we use Navy corpsmen. And the chaplain is, on race day, the joke is that he has one mission, and is to give us sunshine and beautiful weather. Well, this year we had what we call Marine Corps liquid sunshine. There was a nice little drizzle coming down and rain, and it was also the first year that we fully institutionalized metal detectors. Again, working with our law enforcement, it was felt that we needed to have these at crucial spots, and the weather affected some of the false readings. So now, not only do you have people coming later because of the deer false readings, made us go back and double check people and triple check people because of false readings. So it was a very unusual morning when, after people got to the start line and the gun went off, when the 105 howitzer fired, their run, for the most part, was just a phenomenal day to be running in Washington, D.C. and being out there with the Marines and the sailors. But that initial part of the morning, when it's dark, like I said, just I knew something was wrong, and I was trying to do what was in that bag of tricks you asked me about, is trying to remain calm around people who were trying to feed off of my energy. And but at the same time, I sure was curious, and I was relieved once I found out it was a deer. But we'll look at that next year. And is there a quicker way, than 25 minutes or 30 minutes to do an emergency inspection? Maybe I have to pay a few extra dollars to bring somebody into work and be on standby, in the Metro Transit. But those are the things that we'll fix next year. And, as we say in the event business, that will never happen again. Next year it'll be something else. And, you just got to stay on top of your game.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Rick, I want to thank you. It's been a true pleasure discussing race day safety with you today. Thank you so much for joining our show, Asking Event Pro. And again, I want to thank you, and I want to take the opportunity to thank all the Marines that work with you on putting on the Marine Corps Marathon, and more importantly, the Marines that are maybe either watching us right now or will be watching us later, that are currently deployed, that unfortunately won't have a chance to spend the holidays with their families back home. So I salute you, and I thank you for your service and for everything that you do. Rick, it's been a true pleasure.
Hoorah. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Looking forward to having you soon again.
All right.
Bye-bye.